This is Sports Inside and Out. Legends of Sports, the voice of Legends of Sports. When legends speak, people listen.
Welcome to Sports Inside and Out. Today's episode is powered by Yardstream. It's a live streaming studio in your browser, interviewing guests, brand your broadcasts, and much, much more. And presented by CIAASportsbook.com. I'm Charlie Neal, and today we're presenting Black Legends of Sports, who are none other than the first heavyweight champ to have a college degree, none other than James BONECRUSHER Smith. Welcome to the show. First of all, I want to congratulate you, BONECRUSHER, on being a newlywed, married to Doreen the Queen, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you very much, Charlie. It's a pleasure being here.
All right. Let's go back and talk about how boxing actually came into your life and what actually got you interested in the sport.
Well, I went to community college, James Sprint Community College in Kenansville, North Carolina, and then I transferred to Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina, CIAA school. And between one afternoon, Saturday afternoon, between that period of time, I was listening to the wide world of sports, and over my shoulder, I could hear a guy say, "I am the greatest," and we know who that was. And I started doing some what ifs. I said, as far as I can remember, there had never been a college graduate become heavyweight champion of the world. And I started from that moment saying, if I could get my college degree somehow or another, and I did, and I could start boxing, and somehow or another I did, and if I could become a heavyweight champion of the world, I could become the first college graduate to become heavyweight champion of the world. And I put it all together just on a whim like that, and I made it all happen.
Now, in your childhood, now I heard stories that, we're looking at a picture of you coming up with your hands up after a win. But before we talk about that, I heard when you were a child, your parents used to chase you around with a stick. What was that all about?
Well, I didn't want to go to school, and I had convinced myself, Charlie, I was not going to school, but nobody told my mom and daddy. So they had me dropped off my first grade teacher's class, crying, kicking and screaming, telling my teacher, "I don't like you. I don't want to be here, and I'm going home." I started running from her, Charlie. And if I'd have known later in my life I'd have to have 3 knee replacements, a broken bone in my back, brain surgery, and all that stuff, I'd have walked sometimes. I ran, Charlie. Once my teacher called me, she started beating me with a fan belt. Charlie, you know what a fan belt is?
Oh, yes.
It makes a car run. It made me run, too. And I got mad with her, Charlie. And many years later, I write a book called Mad, Making Decisions, Charlie. And she sent a note about me to my mama. And the rule was if I got a whooping at school, I was going to get at least one more when I got home. Odell, which is my real middle name, go get me a switch. That's what mama said. And I was smart even back then, Charlie. I got the smallest switch I could find. Mama broke that switch. She looked at me. She said,
"I hurt more than the big ones, didn't they?"
Go get me a switch. So I had to go back in the woods, Charlie, and get a bigger switch. Now turn around, Odell. She was hit with that switch. She was pronouncing words. "Didn't I tell you if you got a whooping at school, I was going to whoop you too?" I got mad with my mama. Daddy came home. Daddy whooped with his belt, and I got mad with Daddy. So, Charlie, at age 6, I made 2 decisions. 1, I was going to school. And 2, if I ever got grown, I was going to whoop some people. I whooped a lot of people in my time, Charlie. But I got whooped every now and then. But the maddest I've ever been was December 1986. I can remember it clearly. I was suing the great promoter, Don King, because he had promised me a world title fight, and he didn't give it. I got me another promoter, and we started suing each other, breach of contract. And he called me up, "BONECRUSHER, this is Donald King." I pretend I didn't hear him. I said, "Who?" He said, "This is Don King." I said, "Hey, Don, how you doing, brother?" He said, "Bone, I want to settle this lawsuit with you. I'm going to give you the world title fight. I'm going to give you some money, too." I said, "Well, Don, that's awesome." I said, "Don, who is the fight with? When is it? And where is it going to be?" He said, "Well, I got some bad news, Bone." I said, "What's that, Don?" He said, "The fight is going to be against the guy that beat you last year, Tim Witherspoon." I said, "Uh-oh." And Charlie, my mind immediately went back decades. And I remember those whippings I got from my teacher, my mama, my daddy, and the year before in Las Vegas, Tim Witherspoon. Witherspoon beat me all across the ring on HBO for Pillar the Post. I said, "Don, when is this fight and where is it going to be?" He said, "Bone, the fight is going to be on HBO television. You got a chance to redeem yourself on HBO." I said, "Don, when is this fight and where is it going to be?" He said, "Bone, the fight is going to be at Madison Square Garden, New York, and it's going to be next week." I said, "Don, You mean to tell me you're going to give me a 7-day notice to fight a guy? And the last time I had plenty of time to train, get ready, he beat me all across the ring for building the post. He said, yeah, take it or leave it. I said, well, Don, can you give me a minute to think about it? Yeah. I said, well, Don, I was old when I started boxing, 28, first pro fight. And I have a dream, Don. I said, I'm not Martin Luther King, but I have a dream that after I knock Witherspoon out, after I write a book called Mad, Make a Decision, because I'm mad with you and Witherspoon, many, many years from now, I can see it. I can see it. I can see it. Many years from now, I'll be on a podcast with a guy named Charlie and I'm telling him this story, telling the world about this story. I knocked him out in the first round, Charlie, become heavyweight champion of the world because I had gone to college at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. I became the first college graduate to become heavyweight champion of the world, the first heavyweight to win the title at Madison Square Garden, and then the first guy to take Iron Mike Tyson 12 rounds when he was a fighter and not a biter the following year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I'm looking at your fight here now.
That's it right there. HBO, Madison Square Garden. Left and right.
What made Witherspoon so tough?
Big, strong guy, and he trained up in Philadelphia with those guys with Joe Frazier, and Joe taught those guys how to fight. And he was tough. Joe Frazier was a very tough guy.
What was your strength in the ring as a boxer?
Punching power. I had power in that right hand, Charlie. And my goal was to take that left ear and drive it into the right ear with this right hand. And I knew if it didn't get all the way over there, he'd be like Elvis Presley, Charlie. He'd be all shook up.
Let's go back just a moment to your days at Shaw University, where you got a degree in business administration. You went into the military. And before your amateur career took off, which turned out pretty good. But let me ask you this: were you involved in any other sports while in college at Shaw?
I played basketball and I played football. 1 year. I mean, football may have been my sport if I'd have played in high school. But my parents, I wanted to play football in high school, but my parents said, "Don't play football. You might get hurt." And I ended up being a prize fighter for 18 years.
All right.
Go figure that.
Now, again, you were 28 when you turned pro, and your first pro fight was against Broadax Broad. What do you remember about that first professional fight?
I got knocked out. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I don't like to lose. I don't remember the negative things that happened in my life. All the positive things. I should have never fought Broad in my first fight. He had just won the Olympic trials, and the United States had boycotted the Olympics because the Olympics was in Russia, and they didn't go and they didn't support it. But anyway, I was doing good for a few rounds, but about 4 rounds, I got tired, man. I wasn't training for a 6-round fight. My first fight should have never been a 6-round fight. I ran out of gas and got stopped.
Okay. And when you talk about motivation, what was your biggest motivation, and how did you work your way up to become a heavyweight champion?
Well, my mom and daddy, we taught me how to work hard on the farm and just hard work. You're very familiar, but you play sports, and the hard work will beat most people. Most people just not gonna work hard. They're gonna give up. They're gonna find a reason to quit. If you don't quit, you hang in there and just work hard. Just work hard every day. You get to the promised land.
After that first fight against Broadax Broad, 3 years later, you get an IBF heavyweight championship fight against Larry Holmes. What was the strength of Larry Holmes? What made him such a tremendous boxer?
Well, a tremendous jab. He learned a lot of the skills from Muhammad Ali, and great skills. And he just beat a lot of guys, beat everybody pretty much.
What do you remember? What do you remember about that fight? It was one that was stopped in the 12th round.
Yeah, got a bad cut in Las Vegas outside. It was cold out there in November in 1984, and we were fighting outside. It was cold. And I started late in the fight. I started punching. I hurt Larry in that fight.
But did he hurt you?
Yeah, he hurt, but it got cut. Main thing, I was in tremendous condition. My trainer was Emil Griffith, 6-time world champion.
Sure.
He knew how to prepare me for fights, so I was ready in those fights.
How many different trainers did you have?
Well, Mike Bivens was with me pretty much. He was from North Carolina, pretty much with me all throughout, and we trained up in the mountains for the fights, big fights, and then I guess we had 4 or 5 trainers. Some of them just part time, but Emil Griffith and Mike Bivens was pretty much with me the whole time.
As an individual competitor, as opposed to as being a part of the team sport, how much harder is it to be self-disciplined, to train and do the things you need to do to prepare yourself for these fights?
Well, I started out late, 28. That's late. That's about 10 years late, and I stayed in shape pretty much all the time. I didn't want to get out of shape, try to get back in shape, so I pretty much stayed in shape the whole time, and I just peaked when we got closer to the fights.
Now, you mentioned earlier you and Don King sued each other. What was your relationship like with Teflon Don? He had you fighting on a lot of different undercards and things like that. And what brought about the fact that you were suing each other?
Well, everybody, a lot of people have to sue Don, because he always tests and see how far he can go with people, and usually he try to take folks in the wrong way.
But your relationship, I mean, what did it end up being?
Well, I guess it's about 10 years ago, I was headed to the Bahamas, I think, or somewhere in the Caribbean. And I flew into Miami, and I saw a big crowd of people at the airport, and it was Don King. I could hear him before I saw him, and he had a crowd of people around him talking loud. And so once he caught my eye, I caught his eye. He told the people that he was talking to, he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet a former heavyweight champion of the world." He introduced me and give him a hand. He was talking about me. He said they gave me applause, and when he finished talking to me, we chit-chatted for a minute. And then when I got ready to leave, catch my plane, he said, "Now give him another hand as he goes catch the plane." Don is forever promoted.
So you feel that you finally got the respect, especially if it was nowhere but in the airport, from Don King that you deserve.
I got respect, the way I handle myself, and because it was a setup, for him, his guy Witherspoon, to beat me that night. And I think I impressed him by being in shape, jumping on Witherspoon, winning the title, and doing it that way. I think I won a lot of respect from Don, and we'd like to bring Don to Myrtle Beach, and him and Bob Arum to Myrtle Beach at some point real soon, because those guys are getting old, and we like to recognize in the Boxing Legends Hall of Fame, because they're boxing legends, both of them.
Right. You talked about one of your high-profile fights came back in 1987 when you fought Mike Tyson for the unification bout. How tough was Iron Mike in that particular bout?
He was hard to hit. He was very short, as you can see on the video. I was much taller. He was about 5'10". I'm 6'4". A lot of my shots went right over his head, and I tied him up, kind of slowed him down. He was kind of fighting with no socks on and come out with no robe, and he kind of weird acting guy. He's twitching his head and different things. He acted like a wild man.
What do you remember most about that fight?
It was a tough fight. Mike punched, even though he was small, he a lot of body shots. Very good, disciplined fight.
Were those body shots more devastating than other types of shots that you would take?
Yeah. I mean, I should have dug in. If I'd have dug in and started hitting Mike, but he was hard to hit in the head. But if I'd have hit him in the body, shoulders, and arms and different things, just hit him where I could hit him, and instead of tying up, I probably could have wore him out and knocked him out as well. Because I punched just as hard, if not harder, than Mike.
Who was the hardest puncher you faced?
My ex-wife.
In the ring.
Well, all the guys could punch. I mean, probably Witherspoon. I mean, Mike Weaver. Mike could punch very hard, and both Mikes, could punch very hard as well.
Now, you talked about Larry Holmes. You just spoke about Mike Weaver. You talked about Tim Witherspoon. Another boxer that you face, I want you to talk a little bit about him and his ability was Razor Ruddock.
Yeah, he stopped me, but I knocked him down in one of the rounds. I mean, I made him fly, but his promoter got me tied up in the promotions. We fought in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I got tied up in the promotion of the fight. It was a CBS fight, and we just got tired, man. And I did catch him with some shots, but he could punch with that uppercut.
And of those five I just mentioned, Witherspoon, Holmes, Tyson, Ruddock, and Weaver, who would you rather not go up against in the ring?
Neither one of those guys again.
They were all tough, huh?
They're all tough, yeah.
Who was the toughest though of the five?
Tyson was the hardest to hit. He was. If I could hit a guy, I could hurt him, and I could hit those other guys because they were bigger and taller. And but Mike was short, and he ducked it down, and they were doing a lot of wild things. And but he was tough.
Now you mentioned earlier about you wrote a book called Mad, Make a Decision. What was the inspiration for you writing that book?
Well, I wanted the world to see, some of the things that I went through to get to where I was in life, and at the same time, we working on creating a museum in Myrtle Beach, and that's gonna be. I think I'm gonna have a learning center in there. I have both two daughters, one passed, and they were librarians. So in honor of them, I would like to put their name on a learning center library in the Boxing Legends Hall of Fame Museum in Myrtle Beach.
So if you went back and looked back at your career and your highlight of your career in your mind, what do you feel was the highlight of your career?
Getting married about a month ago.
In the ring.
In the ring.
Not with a ring, but in the ring.
Winning the title at Madison Garden. The way, there it is. There's the picture of the wedding right there. Look at that.
You and Doreen. Yes.
Me and Doreen. Look at that. She's here.
How did you get so lucky?
We're both lucky. Luck shows up, and it's where people work hard. If you work hard, the people that's the luckiest is the ones that work the hardest. I really don't believe in luck. I think working hard, the God would just bless you, but He'd show you that He appreciates hard work.
Now, what kind of a punch does she have?
A knockout.
She knocked you right off your feet, didn't she?
Yeah.
Good. Let's go back to in the ring. What do you feel? You talked about the highlight of your career. Let's talk about what has happened to the sport and its popularity that we used to see in the days in which you were competing, the Ali's and the Larry Holmes and the George Foremans and people like that.
I think by having former champions more involved with gyms and arenas and promote boxing and that's why I want to do the Hall of Fame situation, bring guys into Myrtle Beach and have that museum and to honor the guys, and let them be part of it and just being involved, Charlie. You have to be involved. The key word is getting involved, be involved, and participate, be active in what you believe in.
So you still have a good relationship with some of the fighters who are still alive that you fought against, right?
Absolutely. Michael Spinks is one of my business partners, and now James Buster Douglas is my business partner. And, Ray Mercer, different, Carly, a bunch of, they come to Myrtle Beach, they hang out. We hang out not only in boxing, but also in other sports as well as football and basketball. Al Wood from the NBA, Donnell Wolford, and Keith Williams from the NFL. And, we're going to grow and keep going. As
a boxer, you had to, and still probably can sit back and think about what you feel was the greatest heavyweight fight you ever saw that you were not involved in, what would you say it was?
The Thriller in Manila, Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali.
Why do you say that?
Well, they were just going at each other. They were hitting each other. Joe Frazier really wanted to hurt Ali because of some of the things that Ali had said, and he was trying to hurt him for real. And Ali, a great fighter, and he was able to hurt Joe Frazier. Actually, the fight stopped, I think, in the 11th round, between the 11th and 12th round.
Did you take anything from any other boxers that you incorporated into your routine in the ring, like from Ali or anybody else?
Well, I like Ray Leonard. I like his style, Marvin Hagler, their style, their training style, and fighting style as well. Yeah, I learned from those guys as well.
What was it about Sugar Ray Leonard that you liked?
The hand speed and the way he was able to get away from punches, and then he was a showman.
But you were not much of a showman in them. I mean, when I think of showman, you think of Ali.
Yeah.
Maybe even Tommy Hearns, people like that. Where was your showmanship? What did you do to incorporate your showmanship?
My goal was to drive that left ear to the right ear, right hand.
That was your showmanship.
Yeah, that was it.
So what is it going to take to bring back the glory days of boxing?
I think guys like myself, former champions, getting involved and spend some time with young folks, and they're teaching them. Learn. The Bible said, teach them when they're young, and so we train them up when they're young, and then they'll know what to do when they get older.
And you at some point in time, not long ago, a few years back, established what we call the North Carolina Boxing Commission for the state, and served as its first chairman. Why do you feel it was so important for that to happen in your home state?
Well, I wanted to see boxing there. That's where I'm from, and I worked with this former Secretary of State, Rufus Evanston, and we worked together. We got things kicked off in Cherokee, North Carolina, and have the commission in Raleigh, and it was great. And that boxing is part of my life, and I just wanted to see it grow as much as possible.
Now, also, I know that about 25 years ago, you became an ordained minister while still boxing. Yeah, what inspired you to do that?
Well, Charlie, I know for a fact that we only here for a short period of time, and every person that lived, born, lived, and died. The process is born, live, die. And we have to spend, I believe we're going to spend eternity. I know we're going to spend eternity somewhere. And I want to spend it with Jesus Christ, God, and in heaven. And I want to encourage my neighbors, my family, my friends, and my neighbors to spend it. I want to see them up there in heaven, and heaven here on earth, and heaven afterwards for eternity.
Do you have a church?
Yes.
And you are the pastor?
Yeah, I'm part of the ministry there at my church.
And that's in Myrtle Beach?
Springs in Myrtle Beach.
What's it called?
Well Springs.
Well Springs, okay. And you're now living in Myrtle Beach, as we just mentioned. And you mentioned earlier about establishing a Boxing Hall of Fame museum. How's that project coming, and how difficult is it to get that off the ground?
Well, I started the Boxing Legends Hall of Fame. That's my project. I started that in 2016. I was part of the first class being inducted in that. And each year we recognize some guys and have an induction weekend in Myrtle Beach. And but we are in the process for 2022. My goal is to open up a Boxing Legends Hall of Fame museum, probably around the latter part of 2022. We're getting our funding and everything together now. And it looks very good. We'd love for you, Charlie, to come on down. We have play some golf during that weekend, and it's going to be great. The weather, in December, mid-December, it's 80 degrees in Myrtle Beach today.
I know, and that's crazy, isn't it? But at least we're not in Alaska. That's
right.
And you talk about that Legends Weekend. You've hosted that for a while. as many of your former opponents take part in the festivities. That shows the type of relationship you still have with these people and the respect that you're getting. That must
Yeah,
make you feel good.
you give respect and you receive respect. You got to give it first. You got to show love first, and people will show love to you if you show it
Hmm.
respect.
You also, we talked before, and we talked about the fact that Myrtle Beach has a big Christmas parade each year, the first week in December. And you would like, I guess, to bring some of the boxing legends down to Myrtle Beach to be a part of that parade starting next year.
Absolutely, and other sports legends as well.
Right,
Other
right.
maybe other Shaw University, some of the CIAA schools come and be part of the band or different things like that.
How big is that parade?
That's a huge parade. Me and my wife, we sit out there and we sit in my truck, and it just kept right on going. I mean, it was just on and on and on and on. I couldn't believe it. Beautiful floats in there, and it was at night. Beautiful lights, Christmas lights. It was just a Christmas parade.
But you don't want to just be sitting there watching it in the future. You want to be a part of the parade, in the parade with some of the legends in
Some of
sports.
my family and friends, absolutely, Charlie.
So is that can that happen?
Say what?
Can that happen, and what is it going to take for it to happen?
Just ask. Just ask. And the Bible says, ask and you shall receive in Jesus' name.
So what do you say to a youngster who's watching this and has aspirations, or who's thinking about going into that sport of boxing, knowing that it's very physical. There are a number of, they talk about the concussion protocol that we see in a lot of contact sports now, such as football and hockey, and especially in boxing. And that, first of all, what do you say to the youngster first of all, and then we'll talk about the other part in a moment.
Well, boxing is a very serious sport, and as well as all the sports is very serious, and you can get hurt in any of the sports. And now we got something that's going on right now that even basketball is so many football. I mean, both of those sports, COVID-19 right now. I mean, people just walking around and they got COVID, tested positive for COVID. You could be doing anything and be hurt nowadays.
But how have you had any has and I know this is kind of a sensitive question, any effects from boxing in terms of the mental, I shouldn't say mental, but physical injuries in terms of head injuries and things of this nature? And I know that's very prominent in that sport.
Huh?
The head injuries is very prominent in the sport of boxing, such as concussions and things of this nature. Had you suffered any things like that?
Huh? Charlie, you're pretty good. Bobby Crimmins asked me 5 times that same question, Charlie.
I only did it twice.
You only did it twice. Charlie, you're pretty good, man.
But that does raise some concerns, doesn't it, with the
Yes.
concussion protocol?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
And of course we saw in the latter years of Ali's life that he uh, had some problems, from taking too many hits to the head.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think Ali and not only him, but he's having a big name is more recognized. I think he stayed around those last few fights, last few years. He should have never had to do that. And I think if you look out for your money right, you won't have to do that. Just stay around for another payday. And it saddens me to know him and to see him trembling and stuff like that going on. And it's not just boxing; it's other sports as well. You have to just kind of take care of yourself and do the right thing when you're going through.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a pleasure spending some time with you as always. We want to say again, congratulations on being a newlywed, and say hello to Doreen for us.
Yeah,
And glad you could join us here on our show, Sports Inside and Out. And of course, we've been spending time with the first heavyweight champ to have a college degree, young man who came out of Shaw University, Raleigh, North Carolina, none other than James BONECRUSHER Smith. Thank you for being with us, James.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate it.